Okay, thank you, Jason. And my name's Peter Ward, and I'm the speaker tonight on Jason's, I would say, session. And so, Jason, thank you for having me present tonight. So tonight is why is product development different to project development? And what we really want to do is, so I've just put in the chat to like say, where are people calling in from? So Jonathan, John, where are you guys coming in from? On that. Right, so if I'm just on the chat, Jason, you are in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania area, is that correct?
That's right, I'm in Philadelphia.
Okay, very cool. So very quick introductions. So very quick on the agenda, quick about me, presentation background, what the session is about, product and projects, compare and contrast, focus, team structure, challenges, benefits, product distribution, type of product development, and then moonshot ideas. Okay, so quick in-flight briefing. This presentation is actually going to be is also on my blog, which I'm going to put in the chat as well. Okay. Connect if you've got any questions on this. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to do that. I will do that. Okay, and feel free to interrupt and ask me any questions. Okay, introductions. Jason, I know you're the host. Have you ever built out any products in your SharePoint career?
Me. Like
Maybe.
Not full-blown products, but attempts at products. I could not tell you what they were, but I know there have been initiatives at past companies where we tried to do stuff that was resellable.
Okay, now that's an interesting, because the way you answer that, attempts, this sounds to me like you built a project with a client and you thought they could spin it out into a product.
That probably was the case, yeah.
Okay, and how is that? Okay, and by the sound of it, kind of like, well, we got the product, but it didn't sort of like take off. Is that kind of like what we're looking at here?
If it did, I do not remember, but no, I doubt it took off.
Yeah, so I will be talking a little bit about that. What about anyone else? Anyone else want to just sort of like jump in, introduce themselves? John, Jonathan, you're a bit quiet there, or you want to stay? And or
yeah.
John, is that John or Jonathan?
John's fine. Yeah, I'm like a SharePoint guru, but I also do a lot with other Microsoft products. And even though I live on the outskirts of Philadelphia, I work for the University of Iowa, which is halfway across the country.
Oh, okay. Clearly remote, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Right, very, very cool. And what's your role at the university?
Basically, everything Microsoft. People want to go out and get these apps, and if Microsoft's got them, I teach them how to use them and do other infrastructure things, like we're moving stuff to Azure and
cool.
Yeah, anything
very,
else.
very cool. Funny enough, we just not that this is a sales pitch, but we just launched a product called Power Lunch 88, and it's quite popular with universities for new faculty members. Apparently, the new faculty, there's quite a bit of a high turnover of faculty members or new hires with faculty members, and basically it's like a virtual coffee in Microsoft Teams. So and it's free, and for education it's free for 100 users, but it's quite we've got a lot of traction with colleges with new faculty members basically having random coffees or lunches with people via Teams just to get familiar with what's going on in the college. On that, I've just put that in the chat. Right, anyone else who wants to introduce themselves, or we're going to be a bit passive on this? Okay, I'll carry on this front. Very quickly about me, the founder and former CTO, now CEO of Soho Dragon, based in New York, offices a couple around the world. My skills is very much SharePoint and M365, co-author of 4 SharePoint books. Written a few leadership books, Zoom on Microsoft Teams, leadership in the Zoom economy of Microsoft Teams. I also co-organised the New York SharePoint Saturday and run a meetup as well. My first version of SharePoint was 2003. Can anybody beat that then? Okay, Jason, what's yours?
2003.
Okay, yeah. Anyone can beat this. Okay, John, what about you?
I only had 1 week on 2003. Then it was 2007.
Yeah, that doesn't count. No, I'm not counting that at all. Okay.
Uh,
Okay,
So
I could give you that. So, okay, so that's the case. Give me one terminology in SharePoint 2003 which was discontinued in the next version.
Ooh, wow, that's stretching back.
Okay, remember it was SharePoint Portal, and then it was WSS, wasn't it?
Yeah, but didn't that did that continue? That continued
It
forward one.
continued to SharePoint Foundation.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it was. Okay. On that. And then in SharePoint 2003, you had Content Server as well. And when we went into 2007, they bundled the whole thing in together. All right, okay. So this presentation is on LinkedIn. I put this on my blog. And so someone said about vegetarian cooking. Yes, I do like vegetarian cooking. And also I'm a big fan of chess as well. Okay, which is why you see the chess point pieces on there, on this. So just thank you for taking up the evening on this for the next hour. We're really committed to give you something of education and a bit of entertainment as well. Disclaimer, I am not talking about raising money, in-depth development practices or scaling or best practices. That can be another presentation, which I can do, but that's not in this on this. So basically why product development is different to project development. There's a fundamental misunderstanding, and at Soho we do projects, and quite a few of our clients and internally we have gone into product development, and we've got MVPs and staff and we've got a talented team, but it's been a bumpy road to get people into the mindset, to get budgets identified, how it works without getting the products live, and then saying, well, hang on, we built this product, we didn't really get, where's the money coming in, how is it all working? And so I just want to really cover all of that. But it's like not that it's difficult, but quite often when we did this, and I've noticed this with other consulting firms, is that they take like more of the scenic route to get to the destination rather than the straight route as well. So quite often that's the mission, and you talked a little bit about this, Jason, budget and development cycles. Okay, and that's basically the presentation. So what makes me qualified to really talk about this, right? Firstly is that I'm part of the Microsoft MVP, the Microsoft Startup Founders Hub, and this is actually a good program by Microsoft where you can get a boatload or Azure credits to be running your code on this. Jason, are you part of this?
No.
Okay, all right, okay. So basically I've been mentoring for the last year a lot of startups on this program, and there's a few things I'm witnessing on this. Okay, and like I said, we've got a few products on this. If you go to our website, you can see this there. Okay, and the key thing about these products is, let me just clarify, a product is a bit like when you go into a store, you consume something such as cornflakes or baked beans or soda, and you walk out. A service is something more consistent, continuous. Okay, and so we've actually done this for a variety of SharePoint products and Teams products, which are all in the store. So I'm really going to share a lot of our lessons learned on this. Okay, we've also got a program which we're working with so-called, I would say, founders who have got great ideas, and they can go to our website, and we've got a program where we can turn these ideas into realities with the Microsoft technology. Right, okay, so let's just talk about some basics and some definitions and products. Okay, basics here, okay, let's just talk the objective. Okay, when it comes to basically product development, that's really meeting the market needs. Okay, and quite often you don't know what the market is because you don't know how the users are actually going to be reacting. With product development, that's the solution, and generally there's a budget, there's a time, and it's already been improved as well. Okay, and basically we can do certain methodologies, but basically it's a 2,000-hour project and we've got X amount to actually spend, and this is the functionality to get it in the users and get it all working and get it all basically to their actually needs. Okay, uncertainty. Okay, product development is uncertain because you're actually building the thing. okay, and you haven't got the budget approved, or you're speculative on the money coming in. Product development, generally the client's already signed off on it, or if it's internally, the business unit signed off it, or if it's been, or it's been factored into the IT budget already. Okay, duration, okay, with ongoing process. So basically, I'll talk about that without a fixed endpoint. So when the product goes live, just because it's gone live doesn't mean it goes, it's ended. That's where you have a product manager, and that product manager needs to be adding in new requirements, and that's depending on what the customer is asking for, what the customer is willing to pay for, or how much VC you've got money you've got behind you. Product development, team comes together, you do your project, and then you actually go. Budgeting, like I said, you're going to allow for adjustment depending on revenue and how much funding you've got behind you. Product development is actually fixed. The business models are very different. Business model for your product is based on ROI and long term. So with products, you've got to be clear on your objective. So in a previous slide, I showed you a series of these products. One product was called, it's a PDF editor. And what we're doing is, that's almost like we're giving you the appetizer for $18 per user. It's $18 a month, okay, per user. That's not going to keep the lights on, okay. But quite often when the idea behind that being in the store is that firstly, it gives us credibility in the marketplace. And also it gives us basically when a client, so it says, a big enterprise client, they probably say, we like this product, but we've got a whole bunch of customizations you want. As a consulting firm, you love customizations, okay? And here you've actually got something they can look at, a base product, which they can customize, and you're not starting from ground zero, okay? Product development, you're basically going through maximizing your overall benefits. You know what the framework is, you know what the landscape is, and you know what the objectives are, okay, on this. Decision making, priorities feature based on the customer and the market depends. With the project development, you build that, you've already got the requirements generally up front, okay, and you know what the constraints are, okay, on that. So let's just quote back key distances of focus and scope. Product development is very much holistic. So just because you're a project manager does not necessarily mean you're going to make a good product manager, because a product manager needs to be working with the customer and understanding the customer and what they need and what they're willing to pay for. Okay. Also, you're working with other things, people like the business, i.e. how to get the funding as well. And when you're at that product manager, you could put things into sprints, but you might want to say, right, we can get funding for this for the next 3 months. We're now basically going to prioritize our roadmap and see if we can get our roadmap in. And you're dealing with a lot more, so we say, chaotic variables, because you might have a product roadmap, but you don't have the budget to implement the whole thing. So you've got to prioritize it. So you've got competing stakeholders, the customer, the chief revenue officer, okay, who wants to maximize this, okay, and perhaps your product team who are saying, look, the place is pretty buggy. The thing's buggy, we need to fix the bugs first. When the chief revenue officer just wants about as much revenue in this as they can actually, as you can gouge. Okay, product development about completing your task is much more predictable in terms of clients signing off. Remember, with products, customer doesn't sign off, but if they're not renewing, then they're really saying it's not really worth it. Okay, teams remain together generally for the entire life cycle of the product. Product development is one side. It completes at the end of the whole engagement. Let's just look at your product and your product manager. Let's just go through a few of these actually. Product, you're doing researching as well, but different here. It's not structured, and it's not just technical, it's understanding the user needs and user requirements. Setting that vision, okay, about this is what we're going to do in the next 3 months. What exactly is this product really supposed to do? Okay, are the users telling us stuff that they're supposed to do, what they want, but what they really want? Then you've got strategic planning. This is basically your roadmap and figuring out your budgets, creating and maintaining that roadmap, okay, and that vision, that goal formula, and that might change in every week. User understanding, I'm going to talk about that as well later. Market strategy, just because you've got a great product, without distribution, it's useless. Okay, and also it requires on the messaging as well. And then you've got market analysis about you've got competition, because just because you've got a good product, it might be a pretty good, it might be a very competitive landscape. Let's look at your product manager. Now your project manager, who's really looking at the project, which is really perhaps what is actually being delivered. Okay, you're breaking down your tasks, you've got your timelines, project resources, all of this, which is standard old project management stuff here. Okay, and then you've got your communication. This is all standard product. So very different to the whole product manager activity. So just because you're a project manager does not mean you can really make that leap particularly well or smoothly to that product manager unless you know these disciplines. Key difference in the structure. Okay, cross-functional members over a period of time. When I say cross-functional, you're going to have a customer success manager. You're also going to have somebody, as we say, understanding the requirements, market analysis, competitive analysis. Project teams, you don't need to do that. You're basically just delivering the product and then moving on to new formulas. Well, very, very different. Okay, let's look at some key difference conclusion. Okay, product is ongoing, as I said. Okay, in contrast, project is infinite endeavor that finds delivered specific outcomes within constraints, goals and milestones. Okay, and understanding these differences is key to getting it success. So I look on quite a few people, particularly these founders, they say, what's the best methodology, development methodology? And there's never a one size fits all. It's a bit like what skill. People say, what's the best technology to be doing an MVP? And it's almost like, what skill set has your team? And they say, well, my team is all basically Agile and React. Well, that's probably the best technology to use to get your minimum viable product out. Okay, so remember, these are the changes with Agile. You are going to get scope creep because you define what your sprints are. Okay, and then suddenly you've got chief revenue officers coming in saying they want to do this, when I want to do this. So suddenly, how do you get that in the sprint? Measuring difficulties, because your customers may not always, are they paying customers or free customers? Okay, yes, you can get the product out the door, but that does not mean it's a product success. Okay, and then resource management as well. In i.e., with the rapid changes, with the changes, you're going to get strain on the resources, but they need to be managed. Like, for example, the competitive analysis, you don't necessarily want to be doing that at the end when the product's actually being released. It's got to be a bit sooner than that. And then what do you do with that person? Is he going to be part-time, or can he be allocated to other parts of the project? Let's look at the benefits. Okay, I don't know why I started off with the negative before the positive, but that's that. Okay, focus, user needs, user-centric. Okay, early delivery, continuous improvement. That's what Sprint's very, very good. Agile is brilliant at doing that in terms of those user needs and getting that, hitting those goals and milestones on that. So I generally recommend to the founders who are mentoring is to be using Agile methodology. But I also say just get the product out. I often sort of say, well, have you got the product live yet? No. Do you have any paying customers on this thing? No. Get the thing out the door. Okay, don't overthink about this. So we talk about flexibility. These are the continued benefits. Okay, I'm a big fan of Agile. Jason, are you guys are you guys a big Agile, just Scrum Masters, standing meetings and all of that?
It's a touchy subject, but yes.
Why is that a touchy subject?
No, I'm kidding. It's just it depends on the project, but yes, we tend to do Agile methodologies when appropriate. A lot of our projects are migrations, so they don't really lend themselves well to some of that. But we're actually doing it right now for a migration project.
All right, okay, very, very cool. On that. Okay, product distribution. Like I said, it doesn't matter how good your product is, you need to have the thing in the store. Okay, and by doing that, it reduces the friction of by having it in the store. It reduces the friction because basically it's easy to insert this into your tenant, particularly with M365. There's none of that WSPs in the GAC and rebooting the IIS or all of that. It's much smoother and simpler to actually do. Okay, so if you are going to do a product, it has to be in the store for the distribution on that. So let's just look about the whole development scope. Okay, the key, you've got to get this MVP. Okay, and I frequently see basically people over engineering this. And we need this in the product. We need this in the product. Okay, and some of these people I've been mentoring, they might say, well, we've had our development team for 6 months on this thing, and it's still not live. You've still got no paying customers, because the moment you get paying customers, you can get feedback from them. Okay, and if you can't get customers to pay for it, it sounds to me that you have a solution looking for a problem, or you've got missed messaging, people aren't willing to pay for this, or you've got messaging which just doesn't actually work on the whole thing. So yeah, ideas are great. I will talk a bit about that. And then once you've got the MVP, you've got to figure out about how to scale this thing. Okay, and that sort of depends on your code base and your team and your funding as well. So let's just, okay, so the other key thing is you really got to get, this is where a lot of these people have been asking about, founders, is getting curious to the whole, what exactly is going on? Like, why isn't the customer using it? And what, yeah, like, how did you come about this? Well, it was just an idea. Did you seek out the competition? No, I haven't really seen the competition. And it's almost you've got a team of 3 people building out this thing, and you haven't really tested out the competition. And it's a bit like, tell me if you can hear the music on this. Can you hear the music on that, Jason?
Yes.
You can hear Ted talking?
Yes.
All right, and that's the key thing. Like, quite often I'm speaking to, even internally at Soho, I'm asking people about, all right, like, why is a user or customer actually asking these questions? Well, it's because they're confused. Why are they confused? Well, it turns out that they're new in the project, they haven't seen the scope. As opposed to saying, well, look, they're idiots, they keep on asking these dumb questions. Get curious to understand, why are people actually asking these questions? Why is this actually a need as a requirement? So this is what I'm witnessing. And basically, there's 3 types of people kind of like building out these products. You've got the founders, consulting firms, and VC startups. And they've all got different cultures in their decision making. So let's just talk about the founders. Okay, this is where you've got the founders, and they're basically bootstrapping this whole thing together. Okay, friends and family and everything, and they're basically trying to get their MVP together, and they're either doing it themselves or doing it in the evening, or they've got some crew they found on Upwork which is doing this. That's what they're doing. Okay, then you've got the consulting firms. Generally, the consulting firms, what they're doing is building out products, which is really a shoe-in to get more customization and more project work, which is what I just said what Soho is doing as well. But what ours are standalone products. McKinsey have got like a product offering, which is really perhaps a solution which requires a boatload of customized hours on that. And then you've basically, okay, so I'll give you an example of and this is the consulting firms where it doesn't quite add up very well. Okay, so this is a real life experience we had with a construction consulting firm, and they came up to me or Soho, and they said, right, we want to build an MVP, and we want it to compete with these construction products. Has anyone heard of these construction products? Okay, Oracle. Okay, they want to have some of the functionality. And then we basically brought it into their attention. Basically, well, wait a minute here, guys. Your MVP is going to be about $50,000-$60,000, okay, and you're competing with a product here which has spent over $3 million. This company spent $8 million in 4 years, so their burn rate is $2 million a year, and this is a 10-year-old product, and they've invested $4 million into this. So how are you going to have an MVP, and you want the MVP to just look like, oh, we want it to look like Facebook, or we want to make it look like Monday.com. And so, wait a minute here, you can't build an MVP, okay, and have it compete with these products which have already basically sunk millions of dollars into it. It just doesn't, even though you quite often throw out code with products when it starts to scale, these have got the customer base and they've already got the market. And so it kind of like doesn't make any sense. And also with these consulting firms, some of these firms here are not making any money. So suddenly you're kind of like looking at this and you're speaking to like a project manager or or CTO, who suddenly realized, who wants to sort of be a bit of a rebel, disrupt the industry, and he's suddenly realizing, well, wait a minute here, I can't. This product is going to have no value, and also for $50,000 to get it where you want, it's more like $250,000, and you're not being totally clear with your CFO on this. So quite often we've actually lost business, and then it's turned out that CEO or that CTO basically is now not 6 months later is no longer working with the company, and it's because there's been a change in direction. But it's not because basically somebody said, why are we spending so much money on this? Okay, and the objective was not being, so we say, authentic. The objective was basically we want to build out some kind of a product into the market for an MVP and get traction, and then we'll get more funding. When the reality is you needed to invest $750,000 into this whole thing, okay, and you would have never got approval in the first place to do this. So I've seen this mistake, and it's cost quite a few careers on this. Then you've got the bootstrap startups, guys. Okay, these are the people who are funding, and what these people are doing is they're building a better mousetrap. They can see something out there, and they're just building a better mousetrap on that. But technology is just not enough. One of the things I would say to you is that, firstly, what you're doing is going to be intuitive. Okay, it needs to be intuitive, but you can't just have a requirements of it needs to be intuitive. What does that really mean? It needs to look like Facebook. What does that really mean? Are we talking about the authentication? Are we talking about the content, the feeds, or whatever? And I see that when requirements are written up, and they're being written up as a project manager, not a product manager. Like, what is that? And that's that whole getting curious. What does that really mean? It needs to be intuitive. And it's like, well, it just has to pop. I don't know what that. You realize that this is going to be. You realize this could be a change request central. Okay. When anyone says it has to look like Facebook as an MVP, and we've only got about 100,000 to pay on this thing, this is going to be a project which will damage our reputation. Okay. And if it's a consulting firm that's trying to build out a product, you need to make it very clear with the example of what I actually said to them, that MVPs, to really get traction a market, is not a 50,000. An MVP might give you a proof of concept, a POC, but that's not going to give you market penetration. Okay, and let's just talk about some of the serious things that had the commercial success of some of this. And this is the Moonshot ideas. This is what everyone's looking for, but there's a certain lack of them. Okay, and quite often I'm finding with these founders is that they're looking through this through a technical lens, not through a user experience or psychological lens. Psychology is not engineering, and they're not looking at things through technical lenses. And I'll give you a few examples. Like, you've got to be operating here. Okay, you can't be scratching the surface here. Okay, and it's the case of like what people aren't saying, and other, like, their feelings and their thoughts and their opinions and their insights. Like, a good example of this is the whole Uber experience. Okay, I'm sure when someone came around with Uber, people, they probably did the market research and said, oh yeah, but people want quicker taxis, okay, and they want more of them. That's going to be difficult to do and scale, okay? But what Uber did very, very well, it reduced the anxiety. Suddenly I could order a taxi and I knew where exactly it was, how much it was going to cost, and where it was coming from. Okay, so therefore it means that, when I'm going to the airport with my family, I'm not standing out on the sidewalk in the rain. Okay, you probably didn't get that in the requirements. Okay, or if you did, you really had to ask people, because if you ask people probably said they want more taxis and faster taxis or cheaper taxis. One of the success of Uber is that it reduced the anxiety. Okay, and that's a feeling. Okay. Also, there's an air of importance that I can suddenly walk out onto the sidewalk and my Escalade SUV just turns up, and I don't need to be looking around what color it is. I know exactly what the color of the license plate, and he knows who I am as well. So I'm not sort of like some kind of a lesser mortal trying to flag down a taxi. Okay, and that's one of the things that Uber did. Okay, and so if you spoke to an engineer about Uber, they'll say, oh, we need better algorithms, we need more tasks. Okay, what the engineer probably didn't say is that what bothers people is not much the weight, but it's a degree of uncertainty. Okay, and this is, and that makes a much more enjoyable service. That the progress of the taxi. It's almost like being a restaurant, and think about it at a restaurant as well. When you go to a restaurant, there's better feelings once you've ordered the food rather than before you've ordered the food. Because once you've ordered food, you feel like there's something like this in progress happening. Okay, and so as a result, even though the wait might be the same, or it might even be longer, because you think it's in progress, you feel like something's actually happening as well. Also with Uber, there's the element of the taxi, because you can see, oh yeah, this guy's done 5,000 trips already. Okay, and let's talk about that, and it's that framing and that psychological of that, of basically of understanding what exactly is the right problem here. Okay, one of the I talked about this with the Uber, but also let's just talk about that technical point of view as well. Making things quicker. Like, if you ever used Kayak or any of these flight websites, they actually deliberately delay the experience a bit because so therefore when you're searching flights, it makes it look like the search is more thorough. Okay, so there's a perception going on. So making things quicker and cheaper isn't always a win. Kayak deliberately delay that page loading with their search results because it looks like it's been more of a thorough search in getting that information. There's a delay going on. That's known as the Ikea effect. If you ever go to Ikea, you have to drive like at least 30 minutes to get there. You've got to walk 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get into the building itself. And then it's a complete maze of actually having to find the item as well. And then when you actually get it, it's not already made. You actually have to do some work to actually build the thing. Okay, so therefore, just because it's quicker and easier to use is not necessarily what people actually want. Again, understanding the feelings and the pain points. I actually did, there was one guy who I mentored, and he had a device for reducing doorman. It was a sensor system, Internet of Things, a doorman at a hotel. I said, well, there's 3,000 or whatever hotels in New York City. They've got doormans. If you use this automated system, you can open the doors and you save the doorman. You save time on the doorman. Okay, but the doorman does more than just open the doors. He holds your baggage. He will order your taxi, security. He will actually look around and talk to other doormen about the other customers and see if there's other people staying in the hotel and see if there's actually any problem. And also, if it's an expensive hotel, there's an element where I want to be greeted by a human. Okay, there's an air where the hotel is the W hotel is actually $500 a night. I don't want automated doors. I want to be met by a person. Okay, similar like when you go to a restaurant, you have the maitre d'. It's expensive. Who will show you to your table, make you feel important. The doorman makes me feel important. I don't get that from an automated door system. So there's just because it's cheaper, okay, don't do it. However, if this was a motel or a red roof, then yeah, absolutely. Sort of like it could do it quite. This could be this could be fine, but that's not relevant for all hotels. Making things quicker and cheaper isn't always actually a win. For example, one of the things that we actually did was, which we increased our subscription, is we gave people a free trial for 30 days, but you had to put your credit card in, okay? And what we noticed was that people, after the 30 days, they continued the subscription. If we gave the product free for 30 days, and then they said, your trial period run out, please put your subscription in, the subscription dropped off by 30%. I mean, it was more by that. But by actually having them do certain things to actually, which is basically a friction point, i.e. we need your credit card factor, basically the subscription basically continued. Understanding the user, okay, you've probably seen this video. People use stuff very, very differently. Same, okay, but it's not just one person, but just multiple people. What are they doing this? What are they doing this? And then you look at edge effects. some of the times people are looking at, we've done our market data and our analysis, and this is really where the market needs are. Okay, there's also where the competition is going on here as well. Have we looked at the outlier effects? Yes, it might not be all of the users, okay, or all of the requests. However, there's no competition in these areas. This is the whole long tail effect on that, where you're not going for the masses here, but there's no competition going on. Same as restaurants on the high street, but basically is there other areas of town where, there's less people, but there's no restaurants. Going for the gold and the pain points. This is where basically just because it's someone's pain, if it's somebody's pain point and it's also someone else's delight, you should really try and understand what's going on. How do you actually turn this pain point into a delight as well? And a good example of this is it's like in a restaurant. Restaurant don't like waiting for the order. Okay, that's the pain point. But once it's been ordered, it can turn into a delight because you can see the progress. You feel relieved. You know the food is actually on its way. Okay, so how can you let's just talk about this in terms of software subscriptions. Okay, the pain point might be installation, okay, and cost. So how do you turn that into a delight? We'll give you it free for 30 days. Okay, so therefore you're turning that pain, therefore it's risk-free. Okay, simple as that. Okay, so suddenly you've got that pain, identify the pain of the product, how you turn it into a delight, okay, and how do you actually use that for your advantage. Okay, and this is the whole thing, explore, okay, and exploit. Exploit is generally what consulting firms do. Lower risk because they're consulting firms, they're basically taking an existing process and perhaps optimizing it or giving you a discount, or they've already built this out and it's just a question of basically recloning this for you. They know the landscape, there's a low risk of failure. Okay, it's very much incremental wins and it's optimized. Exploit is generally what VCs are doing or what founders perhaps. Okay, high risk, unknown, high failure, and it's actually quite disruptive as well. Okay, chief financial officer. These are the people who kill the creative ideas, and this is partly why you don't get consulting firms building out, don't explore products. They're exploiting it, because if you're exploring it, it's too high risk, unknown. Okay, so if you're working for firms that's got your chief financial officer, unless the technology is compatible with the spreadsheet, they will try and lower the impact at the lowest possible financial benefit. Okay, at the lowest cost. Okay, so things like anything creative, or you can't measure it, or whatever adds value to this, it's a problem. It won't go through. Okay, or it'd be very difficult. The chief financial will look at the call center as being a cost center, but it's serving the customer. Okay, you might be giving away software free for trial periods. Okay, that reduces the risk to the customer, but it's free. It doesn't bring in revenue. Okay, and the chief officer will not understand this. And quite often in companies, it's always like the non-creative types, the rational people who are always killing the creative ideas. It's never the other way around, where the creative idea people are telling the rational people, this is just too boring, it won't go to market. It's always a one-way conversation, and it's that lack of imagination. And that's kind of what big companies, where you particularly risk, is because you've got risk for jobs, and also risk for careers. If you're a big company and you're doing a massive SharePoint migration, it's a much lower risk if you hire Accenture to do this rather than a boutique company, because if Accenture screws up, you can always say to Accenture, it was Accenture's fault. Okay, it was a small business, a small boutique firm, you get the blame, not them. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why companies are not taking, big companies generally are not being creative on innovative products, but also that power of asking the right questions. Okay, and that's actually breaking people's habits. So subscription, okay, once you've got someone in a monthly subscription, once you've got them, I wouldn't use that word, perhaps got them, once you say acquired them, you've suddenly basically got them month after month after month. Okay, and it's reoccurring. You're not breaking that. You're not breaking that. But you've already broken the habit, and also you lowered the barrier to break the habit by giving it to them for free for 3 months. And you probably, if you've got videos as well, okay. And then you might have things like people like to copy. People like to do things what other people are doing. So the things like social copying, online reviews, Trustpilot, super important. Having influencers, people in the community endorsing the products, it lowers the risk. It makes people feel good about this whole thing. That's where promotions and referrals are good, and that's where you'll get the you'll get the conversions. Okay, and the repeat purchasing going on. Okay, now if you're also getting poor conversions, that sounds to me, there's not how much marketing or habit breaking you've got. It sounds to me that the product there's something missing in the product, which is not having people actually renew what's going on. All right, and then the other thing is this is obsession. Sometimes I've spoken to these founders, and then about two months later, they bring in some CFO, okay, who's sort of like gone a bit crazy with Excel, and he wants predictable analytics on the data, and you can't do that with creativity and ideas. You've got to throw things at the wall, see whether it sticks, okay. And one thing about being data driven, okay, but that's very, very predictable. That might be when you've got an existing market, or you've got an existing process, customer, end service, or product you're selling. When it's totally new, you've got to be data informed. You can't get that right, and that means you're taking risks. Okay, any questions?
Did we discuss when it would make sense to build the product for the Microsoft Store?
Okay, well, I would go back and say, did not, okay, but I can ask that question, okay, that's a good question. I would ask the question, okay, it would always make sense. Well, I discussed the Microsoft Store. You need that for your distribution, okay? So it's almost like when you've got that MVP ready, you can get it in the store. Okay, but the question, but the really question is like, what are we building? Why are we building it? Who's the customer? Okay, so it almost like it's not so much, when you put it in the store, it's not as if you put it in the store, but you really have to get the thing in the store for your distribution. US salespeople, boots on the ground, are very expensive. Okay, and unless your product is super expensive, it's difficult to sell. Okay, and if it is, it's probably not necessarily a product, it's probably more of a solution. Okay, generally what I've been talking about is more products which are at most $50 a month per user. Okay, you can't, a salesperson needs to sell a lot of that, and if you're doing that, you're then doing enterprise sales, and you might be able to get it in the store to do a POC in the enterprise, but the enterprise will require POs, and it's financial. They want everything in their tenant, not your tenant. They don't. It's not going to be a credit card transaction, and it'll probably have to go through 3 or 4 meetings of chief security officers, compliance officers, risk officers, and IT as well. And that's not a product. That's a solution. Okay, because it's multiple meetings. On that front. Okay, and this is my reading list. I recommend it, everyone.
Oh, how many of these have I read?
Oh, right. Okay, who's read these?
Definitely 3 of them. Maybe 4.
Okay. Rework is good, and traction is very good.
Yeah.
And nudge is good it's getting people to change behavior, the whole nudge factor. And breaking habits.
I don't think I've read the 3 in the foreground. The 4 in the background.
This one,
at least 3 of them.
So
0 to 1 I've read recently. Rework and traction I've read a while ago. I don't recall if I read Tools of Titans.
Okay, so Rework, the guy who invented Basecamp, he did that. Okay. Peter Thiel, who's he famous for?
I know this.
Question for everyone here.
Yeah.
He was one of the first outside investors in Facebook.
Yes. Wasn't it something else though? Like
Well, he was
PayPal or
also a
something?
big supporter of Trump as well. Okay.
Hmm.
Also, the other thing as well, he had a data company, Palacina, I think, which was a bit caught up in the whole Facebook and Cambridge Analytics of crunching data particularly well, which basically meant that political parties could really get some very good insights in voting intentions in 2016.
Hmm.
On that front. Start with why. That's Simon Sinek, which is good. He has a lot of good stuff on YouTube. And Tim, he has some pretty good stuff as well on that front. Right, that's me done. Any questions? Any sort of inspiration on products here or thoughts?
I have a comment and a question.
Sure.
So I think you gave some brilliant analogies and examples that definitely help retain and remember the technical stuff. So that was amazing. But then my question is, like in the beginning, you talked about differences in function or responsibilities of a product manager versus a project manager. But have you ever noticed any overlapping duties?
Okay, let me just go to the screen.
That was way towards the beginning, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Right around here, yeah.
It's here.
Yep.
There's definitely overlap, but there's subtle. I would say there's subtle differences. Okay, like for example, a product manager is not doing market analysis. Okay, of the commercial front. So that product manager is generally more, I would say, internal focused on the products, the users, and what's going on. While that product manager is looking at a bigger picture. He's looking at he's dealing with different people. He's dealing with customers. He's dealing with the marketplace. Okay, on that. And he's also driving the requirements as well because he's looking at things. So this is what the competition's coming in. This is what our budget is. This is what we're prioritizing. Okay, like unless you're like Facebook or Google, you can't just throw like $1 billion at products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as far as overlap goes, I'm trying to think. So perhaps something like soft skills where they have to lead people and they have to manage stuff. So that perhaps is similar in what the two of them would do in their individual work areas, right?
Yes. Okay, that is actually very, very true. Okay, in terms of what they both have, where the product manager is a bit more chaotic is that you don't have the consistency. Mm-hmm. Okay, in terms of your funding, your roadmap, your product, and the customer as well. Like that product manager is going to have to stand up and say, by the way, we implemented these. In fact, we did a new release, and this is the revenue we thought was going to come in, and it didn't come in. And someone's going to ask some questions on that, and it might not be his fault because since we started that roadmap release, we ended up basically 2 competitors came into the market on that. Okay, and there's outside factors.
Yep, thank you. Nice session.
Thank you. All right. Jason, anything on it?
Yeah, I was just checking to see if anybody else has any questions.
Yep. And again, hit me up on LinkedIn. More than happy to speak to you and answer anything else.
Well, this is our first ever recorded session, so I will most likely put it up on our old YouTube channel that we'll revive. We originally brought it up for the virtual M365 Philly events. And then since we went back in person, there was nothing to record at the time. So
I see.
maybe we'll revive that and start hosting these there.
You're not going to put it up on like your OnlyFans channel or anything?
No. Cool. So, all right. Well, thank you, Peter, for speaking this month. This was very informative. I think what I'm going to do next is make a little announcement. So for those of you who may not be aware, in a month, we're going to have another event coming up. And I am rambling and stalling because I have a bunch of links open and I can't remember where I put it. But on Community Days, we have a low code, no code event coming up in November. This one's going to be virtual. So we shall, man, I really did misplace it. Where did I put it? I had it open this whole time and now all of a sudden I can't find it. Let me post it up here real quick. Yeah. Thank you. All right, let me share my screen super quick for this one. So yes, low code, no code. We have this one on November 9th. It's a Saturday. This event's actually a 24-hour event, which is pretty cool. We do fundraising on this event for UNICEF. And we've started recently confirming all the speakers. So there's going to be a ton of speakers from all over the world. So there's going to be rolling moderators throughout the day, just kind of handling all of the different tracks. But there is a ton. So take a look, register. Yeah, this one's a bit of a marathon. It's quite something. So I think the schedule is out. We were looking at it yesterday. There might be some adjustments to the schedule as we finalize some of the keynotes, but tons of sessions, and it's a registration's open for that one. So go ahead and register, and we'll see you on that one. In the meantime, we are still looking for speakers for next month. I'm reaching out to a few people, so we'll have an announcement on that one fairly soon, I hope. And then again in December, as usual, is when we do our lightning talks. So anybody who's interested, you can reach out on the meetup site, and basically every speaker, we'll try to get around 6 speakers, and every speaker gets about 15 minutes to do a brief little demo, usually on something that they're working on. It's a good way to kind of get involved in the community without having to commit to a full 45 minutes. And then if you're new to speaking, it's a good way to get started and see if you like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps it up for today. Again, thank you, Peter, for speaking. Thank you to all the attendees who showed up, and hopefully we'll have a release of the recording in the next few days.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jason. Bye.
All right.